Having won a championship with Moss after transmigrating into the NBA, numerous teams offered you tempting contracts, but you chose to join the Los Angeles Lakers on a minimum salary. Everyone thought you were crazy, even your agent, Fu Baoluo, was so angry he ended up in the ICU. But they didn't know you had awakened the championship system. As long as the team you're on wins a championship, you can randomly draw championship rewards. And the Lakers' OK combination after '99 was becoming increasingly mature. In the coming years, they will be strong contenders for the championship. With your clairvoyance, you were determined to cling to these two powerhouses, even without pay. In your first season with the Lakers, you mainly played as a tip, gaining the skill of scoring a guaranteed 18 points, but unable to score more than 18 points. Although this skill wasn't top tier, it improved your performance in the second season. Gradually, your playing time increased. As the season progressed, you had become the strongest helper beside the OK combination. This season's playoffs, the Lakers swept their opponents in every game, crushing their way to the championship with a 16-0 record, just after you finished the interview at the press conference. Congratulations, host, for obtaining the championship reward, special skill, turning defeat into victory, slightly reduced to clutch shot, based on rating. Congratulations, host, for achieving a regular season and playoff rating of 70. Congratulations, host, for additionally obtaining a skill upgrade. Detecting that the host only has the white skill, eyesight defense, the eyesight defense skill is upgraded to green. You looked at the skill description and your heart sank. Green eyesight defense reduces opponents' shooting stability by 30%. Sounds impressive, but under coach Phil Jackson, it's a useless skill. If you're not actively defending, you'll be benched immediately. Once the opponent scores despite your eyesight defense, you're prepared to be glued to the bench. And that clutch shot skill is even more ridiculous. When trailing in the last minute, any contested shot is guaranteed to go in. But the problem is, when has it ever been your turn to take the Lakers' clutch shots? Kobe and O'Neal monopolize 80% of the clutch opportunities. The rest wouldn't fall to you, a nobody. You felt a wave of disappointment. This reward isn't even as good as the last one, Wolfberry tea in a thermos. But just as you were disliking your new skills, the Spurs, who initially abandoned you, the management team's intestines were turning green with regret. Look at these reports, the fans are about to scold us to death. Who knew a garbage time tip who went to the Lakers could become the third option? The Spurs general manager was furious. He made so many mistakes back then, why wouldn't we let him go? At the same time, various endorsements flooded in, and endorsement fees soared. You spent the entire offseason running endorsements, earning a full $8 million, equivalent to over 60 million renminbi. You didn't hesitate, and directly took out half in the capital and other more than a dozen big cities, bought dozens of houses. Just when you thought life was a guaranteed win, reality punched you hard. The entire offseason, you frantically practiced defense. As a result, your inside and outside defensive attributes, each only improved a pitiful bit. Then the 2001 new season quietly began. As defending champions, your Lakers are still invincible, with a perfect record in the regular season. The regular season started with a 7-game winning streak, even though Kobe and O'Neal only played an average of 2 games. You can't lose. However, you, with 2 consecutive championships, have already become the public enemy of the entire league. All teams have begun to target you frantically. They can't find your weaknesses. They actually turned their attention to O'Neal. For a time, O'Neal's terrible free throws became the Lakers' biggest weakness. In one game, he took 10 free throws and didn't make a single one. Even if 3 players from the opposing team fouled out, you still lost the game. You were a bit depressed. That guy's free throws are simply up to fate. Then, you realized the situation was getting worse. The entire league is targeting your Lakers. All teams have only one goal, to prevent your three-peat. Every regular season game is as fierce as a Game 7 in the playoffs, giving Phil Jackson a headache. In order to establish the Lakers dynasty, he can only let you rest in rotation to avoid injuries. Everyone except Kobe, who is full of competitiveness, is happy. You don't care. Playing less than 20 minutes, scoring 18 points and leaving the court directly. However, the off-court turmoil has just begun. In the 2001 NBA draft, Kwame Brown, the bust of a top pick, was born. You watched Parker, Gasol, and that biggest dark horse, Arenas, get selected. You really wanted to tell the management to spend a little money to get Arenas. It would definitely be a great deal, but unfortunately, you are insignificant. You can't say anything at all. This made you have the first thought of leaving. But you know that, with your current strength, leaving the Lakers would result in less influence. So you decided to stay because you have a huge secret that only you know. The Kings this season are actually stronger than the Lakers. But you also know that the league is aiming for your three-peat dynasty and will never let you lose. This is your real trump card for staying. At the same time, you also discovered another ticking time bomb that is about to explode: Kobe and O'Neal. They've already started secretly vying for ball possession, although it's still very hidden. But, this Kobe, next season he's going to explode and directly take your fourth championship. And give it to Moss. You're too lazy to bother with these things, still playing your role. Averages 15 points per game, whether it's 2-pointers or 3-pointers, the shooting percentage is consistently 100%. But your strange performance finally aroused Phil Jackson's suspicion. He can't figure out why you score 18 points in the first 2 quarters, but can't score 36 points if you play the whole game. As a result, as long as you score more than 18, you pass the ball like crazy, even if it's a blame-shifting pass. You won't shoot. Kobe and O'Neal are happy, but Phil Jackson's face is getting darker and darker. You can only pretend to be physically exhausted and sit on the TBC with a wry smile. Just kidding. If I shoot again, I'll just be bricking shots like crazy, and it'll be even worse. Finally, Phil Jackson couldn't bear it anymore. He directly called you aside and sternly questioned, "Wang Jie, there were several opportunities so good, why didn't you shoot yourself? You spread your hands directly and throw out an excuse, 'Coach, I'm too exhausted. I can't even see the basket clearly.'" As a result, Phil Jackson actually believed it. Then he specially leaves 3 or 5 points in reserve just to prevent him from saying. Your performance drops off in the second half. At the same time, your fame completely explodes. Fans are shouting your name like crazy. A champion with a 100% shooting percentage is simply the #1 in the league. Countless teams are exclaiming that as long as you and Kobe swap ball possession, the NBA will directly have its final ending. Soon, the regular season ended, and you guys took a dominant 65 wins. The playoffs are even more unstoppable. Facing the Jazz, you clocked out after 2 quarters. A 4-0 sweep. Then facing the Mavericks' Big Three, it was still a 4-0 sweep. The entire league is trembling under your terrifying dominance, just when the whole team is unprecedentedly inflated. Thinking that the championship is within reach, a phone call instantly plunges you into an ice cave. Your agent, Thompson, tells you that Lakers general manager West wants to extend your contract early. You thought it was a great thing. As a result, the number he revealed stunned you on the spot. A 2+1 contract. 1 year, $4 million. What? $4 million? You simply can't believe your ears. You've pushed old Fisher under your butt, yet your annual salary is even lower than his. This is simply an utter disgrace. You are furious and have your agent reply directly. Tell West I'm worth at least $9 million a year. However, you forgot, unexpectedly, the first game in the Western Conference. Retribution came so quickly. You were firmly pressed under the Zen Masters, but sitting from beginning to end. It wasn't until the last quarter that you got 10 minutes of playing time. But so what? You threw in 3 3-pointers as soon as you came on, scoring 9 points and 5 assists, and forcibly led the team on a one-way flow to take the game away. Winning the Western Conference opening game. At this moment, Zen Master finally understood, without you, it really wouldn't work. He immediately found General Manager West, but West's words also made him fall into silence. If Phil gives him $9 million, we'll have to break up the team. Zen Master was completely silent. Sacrificing a player for a dynasty seemed to be the only option. So, an absurd plan was born. West actually said, "Let Wang Jie only play 1 quarter and see. If we can win by only playing 1 quarter, then we can still win the championship without him next season." Immediately afterwards, on the Western Conference court, you really only played 1 quarter. But even so, the Kings were still firmly suppressed by you. You only played 1 quarter each game, but you managed to widen the score. Finally, you suddenly got the match point 3-1. However, the Kings played a stubborn game. They fought back in desperation and pulled back a game in the 5th game. Now, Zen Master completely panicked. He didn't dare play with fire anymore, fearing that he would lose the dynasty. So in the 6th game, you directly played 2 quarters. The result? You frantically scored 18 points on the spot, and even used a shuttle 3-pointer in the last minute. Completely killed the game. Lakers 120-117, 4-2 eliminated the Kings. Although it was a difficult victory, and even with the help of the referee, it was still a win after all. Immediately afterwards, the finals, facing the Eastern Conference champion Nets. You played without any suspense. 4-0, a brutal sweep. You ascended to the top again. Following Stern's announcement of O'Neal winning FMVP, you calmly raised the championship trophy. Right at the press conference, a yellow-skinned, beautiful reporter caught your attention. You immediately addressed her. "Hello, Miss Fanbing," she asked with a smile. "Will you stay with the Lakers next season?" You looked at the camera and confidently announced, "Of course, as long as the Lakers give me a max contract, I will stay and help the team build a second dynasty." Your words resonated powerfully. Because you knew a new skill was about to be acquired, But just at that moment, a white reporter suddenly launched an attack, his words extremely sharp. Taking supplements before the game, is that contraband? You were speechless on the spot. I have a urine test every game. This is basketball, not a 100-meter race. Who knew that the reporter would not let it go? Continuing to press aggressively, so you admit to taking performance-enhancing drugs? You were completely enraged. Even with performance-enhancing drugs, I couldn't become O'Neal. Next. You were too lazy to pay attention to her and looked directly at the next reporter. Is a 100% shooting percentage. Because there aren't enough shot attempts? You shook your head and responded frankly. Few shots, good luck, that's all. The interview ended. You immediately rushed home because you knew an even bigger surprise was waiting for you. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the championship ring. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the rule-based top-tier skill, Divine Descent. Detected host rating of 75. Skill downgraded to unpredictable. Not only that, your eye defense also upgraded to blue, which can reduce the opponent's shooting stability by 40%. This is simply heaven-defying, but when you saw the description of the new skill, unpredictable, you were stunned. Active trigger. All attributes increased by 20% in this game. But in the next game, no trigger required, all attributes directly reduced by 20%. Isn't this just one game godlike and one game ghostly? Even more deadly is that the score is still limited to 18 points. This skill is useless in the Lakers. Your shot attempts are already pitifully few, and with a debuff, what's the point of playing? You instantly understood that leaving the Lakers was imperative. So, you immediately contacted Agent Thompson, and Thompson contacted the Spurs. Asked them if they wanted you next season. You knew very well that the Spurs would win the championship next season. Going to the Spurs was like directly lying down to win. However, the Spurs' reply chilled you to the bone. They were only willing to offer a $5 million a year contract, which was too little. You frowned directly and told them the minimum was $7 million. I can help them win the championship, but the negotiation broke down. The Spurs were unwilling to add a single penny. They would rather give up a championship puzzle than pay an extra $2 million. Helpless, you had to let Thompson contact other teams. For a time, you, as a free agent, became a hot commodity in the market, chased by countless strong teams. All the teams were eager to get you, but the problem was, everyone thought you were riding on the coattails of Kobe and O'Neal, believing that your 100% shooting percentage was all thanks to the two superstars feeding you the ball. Therefore, when you directly quoted a maximum salary of $10 million, most teams were instantly scared off. They felt that you, as the third option, were not worth that price at all. Just when you were almost desperate, Thompson suddenly brought explosive news. Jeku. The Trailblazers are willing to give you a max salary, but they have a condition. Thompson said it must be a 2+2 contract, with the team deciding on the third and fourth years. You got goosebumps when you heard this. The Trailblazers were a huge pit. They signed by Bien, and the salary wasn't even enough, and they still had to pay more than $50 million in fines. This was clearly trying to make you a sucker, so you immediately refused and asked if there were any other options. Yes, the Nets are willing to give $9 million. Your eyes lit up. This is the Eastern Conference champion. But Thompson's next sentence made you frown again. They are only willing to offer a 1+1 contract. The second year is still a team option. You knew very well that although the Nets are strong, they just can't beat the Spurs in the finals, so you decisively decided to sign with the Nets. But I will only sign for 1 year. As a result, the Nets flatly refused. Unless you cut your salary by $1 million. Forget it. $8 million it is. Your lips twitched, but in your heart you were thinking, it's still better than those two stingy teams, the Spurs and the Lakers. Only now did you understand that, in the eyes of those managers, your reputation was worthless, and your 100% shooting percentage was actually seen as opportunistic, as shirking responsibility. They thought you wouldn't dare to shoot in crucial moments. But just when you were feeling battered, in one offseason you made over $10 million from endorsements alone. You instantly realized, what's a few million in salary? As long as you can win a championship, your value will skyrocket. Why worry about money? You then discovered that the Nets were simply tailor-made for you. The boss never hogs the ball and has incredible passing skills. More importantly, they've never won a championship, and their desire for a title has reached its peak. On the other hand, the Spurs, Popovich discussed you with the management 3 times, but they just wanted to save on luxury tax. Once this starts, you're the starting shooting guard. And at this moment, the draft officially begins, and a name you are extremely familiar with reverberates throughout the arena, Yao Ming. In the draft, Yao Ming isn't the only big fish, but your eyes are locked on a drop in the ocean, Carlos Boozer. If this guy was redrafted, he could be in the top 3, and the Nets' 24th pick is perfect for getting him. You immediately asked Thompson to contact the head coach, the 24th pick, choose Boozer. Trust me, it's definitely a bargain. The coach readily agreed to pass your words to management. However, the next second, the message that came back chilled you to the bone. Sorry, Wang Jie, we don't need a forward. They actually rejected your, a four-time champion's, suggestion. As a result, the Nets picked a nobody. You could only helplessly complain. This operation is simply amazing. But then you thought, forget it, you just won a championship, you're not here to be the team manager. At that moment, the news of Yao Ming landing in the NBA swept through Asia like a hurricane. Instantly, comparisons between you and Yao Ming flooded in. He is a homegrown top pick, the pride of heaven, while you are just an American-born Chinese, even helping the haters start their rhythm. Wang Jie is just a championship bum, mooching on the Spurs, mooching on the Lakers. I could do it too. You didn't care about this, but you never expected that the Domestic Basketball Association would come knocking, hoping you would quickly change your nationality and fight for the country. Right at this critical moment, you officially signed a one-year contract with the Nets. Now, even your agent, Fu Baoluo, is getting anxious. Jack Wang, you're an older rookie. Signing only for 1 year is too risky. But your eyes are firm, and you suddenly look up. I'm 28 years old this year. I've been playing for 5 years, but I believe my peak hasn't arrived yet. Then you tell your agent to contact the Spurs as soon as possible. The Spurs will win the championship next season. Going to the Spurs is like lying down to win, but the Spurs actually think you just exposed the shortcomings of the OK combination. In fact, the entire league thinks the same way, and no team offers a salary that meets your expectations. After comprehensive consideration, you chose to sign with the Nets. An $8 million a year contract. Can you lead the Nets to change history and continue your record of winning a championship every season since you were 23 years old? Entering the NBA with Yao Ming joining the NBA as the top pick, the Chinese people are even more looking forward to the new NBA season. You know very well that you are already 28 years old, which in the NBA is considered an old player. So the Nets general manager is only willing to give you a short contract, afraid that your strength will decline. But you don't panic at all, because your body has already been reborn. For this reason, you have been training like crazy throughout the offseason, resting for 1 week, and sweating for the rest of the time until the season starts. Your strength and physical fitness are forcibly pulled to 80 points, which is the standard for a starting center. However, when you arrived at the Nets court, everything didn't go so smoothly. Although the legendary point guard, Kid warmly embraced you, and Coach Scott also smiled at you, but who knew? You messed up the first internal training session. Without using any skills, you made 8 of 13 shots and only scored 17 points. The performance was mediocre. After watching, head coach Scott just frowned, scribbled on the tactical board without saying a word. The internal training ended. You thought you were going to be benched, but unexpectedly, when the preseason started, the coach directly let you replace Jefferson as the starting player. Even more explosive was that the first opponent was your old team, the Lakers. At this moment, you didn't hesitate and directly activated the unpredictable skill. In an instant, all your attributes soared by 20%, strength 96%, speed 90%, stamina 96%. You directly transformed into a demon on the court. You shouted loudly at Kid, "As long as I'm on the court, pass the ball to me if I'm not double-teamed." Kid's eyes narrowed. He knew this was a revenge battle. So the game began. You transformed into a combination of Kobe and O'Neal, directly going head-to-head with Kobe on both offense and defense, without losing ground at all. You madly shot, broke through, and defended. You even snatched a rebound from the gigantic O'Neal. O'Neal's face turned green on the spot. He couldn't understand how you could catch up with him so quickly after only leaving for 1 season. Even with Kobe and O'Neal joining forces to suppress you, after just 2 quarters, you led the team to a 70-62 score, leading by 8 points. By the end of the 3rd quarter, the point difference even reached double digits. Lakers head coach Phil Jackson's face turned dark, and he directly replaced the starters and announced his surrender. And UConn scored 39 points in 3 quarters, 6 assists and 3 rebounds. This is still the data from 3 quarters. If you played the entire game, 50 points wouldn't be a dream. It wasn't until the end of the game that the feeling of flying dissipated rapidly. The entire stadium of fans went crazy for you. Immediately after, the 2nd game against the New York Knicks. Before the game, you calmly drank a cup of wolfberry water, actively triggering the wolfberry skill inside the thermos. The next second, you felt a burst of weakness in your body. It was as if you instantly returned to your days as a water dispenser manager. But you secretly thought to yourself, even so, I'll shoot 4 3-pointers before leaving the court. Sure enough, you only played 1 quarter in this game, but you still scored 15 points and 3 assists thanks to your good touch that day. In the following 3 quarters, you directly gave the stage to your teammates. This made you feel extremely comfortable in the Nets. Immediately afterward, the regular season officially began, and you led the Nets all the way to victory. You started with a 10-game winning streak before being narrowly defeated by the Spurs. At this time, the Nets' record of 10 wins and 1 loss directly topped the league. The entire league realized you were a treasure. When you were in God mode, you were practically Michael Jordan reborn. You dominated everything on both offense and defense. But when you were weak, you started with 3 unreasonable 3-pointers. Even with 2 or 3 people double-teaming you, they couldn't stop you. You often started with a 9-0 run, directly bewildering your opponents. Just like that, halfway through the season, you guys exploded with a terrifying record of 38 wins and 3 losses. The winning percentage was first in the league. In just half a season, you were already close to 40 wins. However, this was not the end. In the second half of the season, the Nets continued to run wild. At the end of the season, a record that shook the past and present was born. 73 wins and 9 losses. You actually broke the historical record of 72 wins set by Michael Jordan's Bulls. At this time, the general managers of the Spurs and Lakers were full of regret. If they had known you were this strong, a few $1 million would have been nothing. As for you, you put up gorgeous stats of 24.5 points, 7 assists, and 3 rebounds in the regular season. Playoffs. You faced the Orlando Magic as the top seed in the East. But who knew that the core of this team was Tracy McGrady, the scoring champion. He averaged a whopping 32.1 points this season. He was at the peak of his career, and your stats in front of him didn't seem good enough at all. Sure enough, right at the start of the first playoff game, you and McGrady directly started a scoring frenzy. Remember, Yao Ming already had a tacit understanding with you, passing to you without permission, and you shooting wildly, facing off against peak McGrady. A battle of the gods thus begins, the last minute of the final quarter. The score is 122-118. You are leading the Magic by 4 points. You are guarding McGrady tightly. Your score remains at 28 points, but his score has already reached 30 points. Even more deadly is that your teammates are all in double figures, but McGrady's teammates lack stamina. Just then, you activate the finishing skill, facing McGrady's defense. You shoot a 3-pointer with a swoosh. The score instantly becomes 133-126. The difference is directly widened to 8 points, and now Grant Hill and Mike Miller both cover their heads, their faces full of disbelief. Although McGrady scored another 3-pointer at the end, the overall situation is set 135-129. You won the first playoff game and also exploded with 40 points. All around incredible data. After the game, McGrady was sweating profusely, but looked at you with firm eyes. Wang Jie, I will defeat you in the next game. You just smiled. Okay, brother, I'll give you a chance. However, no one expected that it would actually be the start. You drank wolfberry water and directly turned on the weak mode. McGrady saw you coming over, immediately went up to defend, but you didn't even jump. 1 step outside the 3-point line, directly leaned back and threw it out. Swoosh. The basketball accurately went into the net. In the next second, it was McGrady's turn to attack. You directly retreated and used eye defense. McGrady made a dry pull-up jumper. As a result, it directly hit the iron with a clang. Immediately afterwards, you made another godly shot. Another 3-pointer. Then you crossed halftime. Another 3-pointer. The referee blew the whistle to stop the game. The Magic team called a timeout. In less than 5 minutes of the opening, you made 3 of 3 3-pointers. Directly scored 11-2. However, after the timeout, you directly sat on the bench. Tracy McGrady was dumbfounded looking at Jefferson, who was guarding him. He felt utterly humiliated by you. 277, but even without you on the court, Kid still bewildered the entire team, and ultimately 278 won 120-115, defeating the Magic again. Then the third game 279 began with the momentum of a god and demon. All attributes increased by 20%, once again powerfully suppressing McGrady. 283-0 match point in hand. Fourth game 281 used all his skills. 4-0 directly swept the Magic competition. 282 next round, you faced the 76ers. You smiled at Allen Iverson on the opposite side. 283, but guarding you was Van Horn, and as a result 284 you activated unpredictable abilities, directly exploding Van Horn. 3 quarters past 285 the point difference widened to 15 points. You feel it's easier than playing the Magic. And finally 286 another clean 4-0 sweep. Eastern Conference Finals 287 you face the Pistons, but this year's Pistons, Prince is still a rookie. 288 the inside line is even more weak. You are grabbing rebounds like crazy. And finally 289 the first game was 4-0. You swept your opponent again with an invincible posture of 3-4-0 as 290 strongly win the championship. Eastern Conference 3-4-0 sweep promotion. You think the championship is at your fingertips. 291. However, in the finals, you encounter the real overlord, the Spurs with Duncan. 292. Greg Popovich even declared before the game that he would personally defeat you and win the championship. 293. The real hard battle has only just begun. The first game of the finals. 294. You directly activate unpredictable abilities. Your physical fitness skyrockets instantly. Duncan launches a fast break to score 2 points. 295. But you don't care. The next second, you receive a pass from Kid. 296 facing the best defensive player Bowen. Directly hit a three-pointer 3-2. 297 overtime. Then you rush into the restricted area. 298 pushing against Sheffer Duncan and passing the ball to Kid. Duncan was shocked. 299. What great strength. He couldn't believe that your strength was even better than his top-tier 300 center. In this way, completely blows up the Spurs on both offense. Even if you weren't on the court, Kid still made the whole team hesitate and ultimately thought they would beat the Magic again 120-115. Then the third game began with godlike momentum. All attributes increased by 20%, once again powerfully suppressing McGrady. 3-0 match point in hand. The fourth game used up all the skills and directly swept the Magic in 4-0. Next round, you're up against the 76ers. You looked at Iverson on the opposite side and smiled. But defending you was Van Horn, and as a result, you activated unpredictable power and directly blew up Van Horn 3 quarters past. The point difference was widened to 15 points. You felt even easier than playing against the Magic, and ultimately, another clean and neat 4-0 sweep, the Eastern Conference Finals. You faced the Pistons, but this year's Pistons team, Prince is still a rookie. The inside is even more unbearably weak. You guys went crazy grabbing rebounds, and ultimately, the first game was 4-0. You swept your opponents again, with an invincible record of 3-4-0 sweeps. You powerfully won the championship with 3-4-0 sweeps to advance in the East. You thought the championship was within easy reach. However, in the finals you met a true overlord, the Spurs with Duncan. Popovich even declared before the game that he would personally defeat you and win the championship. The real hard battle is only just beginning. Game 1 of the finals, you directly activated unpredictable, and your physical attributes instantly soared. Duncan scored 2 points with a fast break at the start, but you didn't care at all. The next second, you received a pass from Kid. Facing Bowen, the best defensive player, you directly hit a three-pointer 3-2. Take the lead, and immediately after, you charge into the restricted area. Forcibly contending with Tim Duncan, you flick the ball to Kid, leaving Duncan astonished. Such great strength, he couldn't believe that your power was even stronger than him, a top-tier center. Just like that, you completely dominated the Spurs on both offense and defense. Scored 36 points, 1 rebound, and 7 assists, leading the team to a 113-109 victory. Taken in hand, however, just as everyone thought you would sweep again, in the second game you actively enabled weak mode. You drank a cup of wolfberry water, your physical attributes plummeted by 20%, and you made 3 three-pointers on the court. You were immediately substituted by the coach, resulting in a 9-6 lead in the first quarter. The Spurs instantly caught up. You went on again and made 3 three-pointers again. You once again led by 5 points, but as soon as you were off the court, the situation collapsed again. Your teammates Martin and Jefferson were violently rubbed on the floor in the paint by Duncan and Robinson. Unable to grab a single rebound, in the fourth quarter you applied to take tap step up to support a bit. However, Scott overdid it, insisting on putting Kid up to help, and the result, of course, was no way. Activate tap step 5 Jazz. In the end, you lost 120-112. Lost the game by a large margin. After the game, Coach Scott kept you behind. Wang Jie, this is the playoffs. I hope you take it seriously. You looked at him with extremely firm eyes, Coach. Do you believe me? In the next game, I will recover my stamina. Defeat the Spurs, but in the game after that, I must take tap step. Otherwise, we will surely lose. Scott hesitated for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. He actually had Duncan and Bowen, 2 of the best defensive players, double-team you at the same time. Your shooting percentage plummeted, and you were even blocked by Duncan after a breakthrough. Helpless, you passed the ball like crazy, but your teammates, their touch was ice-cold, and they couldn't make a shot. In the last minute, you used up all your skills and gave it your all. However, under the iron-blooded defense of the Spurs Twin Towers, you still lost 101-102. Lost by 1 point, you had 28 points, 13 rebounds, and 12 assists. A neat triple-double, but could only watch the team lose. With a score of 1-2, you are forced into a desperate situation, and your teammate Martin is holding his head in painful self-reproach, but you shake your head and comfort him because you have already planned today's overall situation. You find Coach Scott. Coach, our stamina is limited. The main players will start in the first quarter, and in the second quarter, I'll lead the substitutes. Scott was shocked, but seeing the confidence in your eyes, he gritted his teeth and agreed. The decisive battle of the Big Four arrives, and the Spurs are surprised to find that you are not playing, and Popovich is stunned on the spot. Then, your main teammates, under the suppression of Duncan's Twin Towers, struggle to survive, and at the end of the first quarter you are behind by a full 4 points. But you breathe a sigh of relief because everything is under your control. Second quarter. You lead for substitutes onto the court, and Popovich laughs. How dare he? So he lets the energetic main players continue to play mindlessly. In his opinion, this is simply a godsend. But the next second, the whole audience is dumbfounded. You transform into the god of point guards, and your 4 substitute teammates explode instantly. Mutombo snatches 5 rebounds in a row from Duncan, and the 4 benchwarmers score a stunning 24 points, while the entire Spurs team only gets 12 points. In the blink of an eye, you are 8 points ahead. Popovich is stunned, and Scott is also dumbfounded. Third quarter. You continue to lead the team, and the point difference once widens to 15 points. But at this moment, Popovich finally reacts, and the Spurs start to target you frantically. The 4 substitutes are exhausted, and you are also panting and can only go off the court helplessly. Instantly, Duncan leads the Spurs in a frantic counterattack. With 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the point difference is narrowed to only 7 points. Seeing that the game is about to collapse, you immediately request to play, replacing Jefferson. As soon as you come on the court, you directly hit a 3-pointer over the heads of Duncan and Bowen. The point difference widens to 10 points again, and the hope that Duncan and others have just ignited is instantly extinguished by you. But that's not the end of it. In the last minute, the point difference is chased back to 5 points, and you are double-teamed by Duncan and Bowen as soon as you dribble past half-court. Who knew that you didn't even look at the basket? Threw the ball directly from the center circle. What? The whole arena was shocked. Scott stood up abruptly, but Popovich's face showed a smile of complete control. Next second, kill. The basketball goes through the net cleanly. Popovich's smile instantly froze. The Spurs' home was deathly silent. You hit another 3-pointer. Completely kill the game. 3-2. You dragged the series into a Game 5. Aggregation. You planned to repeat the trick in the second quarter. You once again led 4 tips against the Spurs championship lineup, but this time, you are no longer weak. You and 4 teammates comparable to All-Stars give Duncan and others a crazy beating. The rebounds were all snatched by you, and every shot went in. Popovich frantically changed his lineup, but it was useless. By the end of the third quarter, the point difference had reached a terrifying 20 points. Duncan was stunned. He couldn't believe that you, with a group of tips, actually turned their championship lineup into bots. Fourth quarter. The starters return and you also reappear. The tip veterans are exhausted, but they have completed their mission. In the end, the Spurs were unable to recover. 130-115. You won Game 5 and you even more wildly scored 40 points, 12 assists. 7 rebounds of terrifying data. 8 players on the team scored in double figures, playing an epic team basketball game. Just like that, you have match point with a 3-2 lead. The finals are imminent. Just 1 step away from the championship. However, at this moment an unpredictable side effect came. All of your attributes instantly plummeted by 20%. As soon as the game started, you were made extremely embarrassed by Duncan and Bowen's help defense. Just took 2 3-pointers. The ball was directly stolen. You hardened your heart and simply put the tips on the court again. Although you were constantly beaten by Duncan, your 4 tip teammates broke out again. Duncan didn't dare to come out and help defend you at all. You passed the ball frantically, found the open space and made 2 3-pointers. Bowen was nailed to the spot by you. At the end of the second quarter, your tip lineup actually surpassed the Spurs by 3 points. All the fans at the scene were dumbfounded. The starters are on the court. You were getting beat down by the Spurs. Tip went on, then you chased the Spurs. But the Spurs' tenacity is terrifying. In the third quarter, your stamina sharply declined. You could only resort to defense, and Duncan and Robinson seized the opportunity to frantically attack the paint. By the end of the third quarter, your advantage had been whittled down to just 5 points, and you were already exhausted. You were forced to go off and rest. In the final quarter, everyone was very serious. Duncan and Robinson went crazy, and their sneaky fouls increased. Fortunately, Jed went on for 10 minutes. Chased by Duncan of the Spurs, they were only behind by 1 point. The Nets still had a 1-point advantage. Scott also understood from the sidelines that the Nets were no match for the Spurs without Wang Jie. Wang Jie brought Tip on, who had rested for 10 minutes. Tip and many veterans were too exhausted. Their physical attributes would decline, even with a 20% increase. The difference in stamina would still be there. However, Duncan and Robinson of the opposing Spurs were equally fierce and exhausted. Exhausted, but fortunately, the Spurs were still a young team at this time. Young and strong, they barely resisted the offensive of Wang Jie and others. Popovich frantically targeted Wang Jie's defensive flaws, achieving miraculous results, but after 3 minutes. Wang Jie made 3 of 3 shots for 9 points, and others also gained something, forcefully turning a 1-point deficit into a 4-point lead. In the last 2 minutes, the Spurs made 3 two-pointers, finally compressing the point difference to 2 points, but in the last minute, Wang Jie assisted Rodgers in making a 3-pointer. In an instant, the point difference was expanded to 4 points. The Spurs called a timeout. Immediately afterward, the Spurs used tactics to break through Wang Jie and hit the backboard, scoring 2 points. The time had already reached 52 seconds. Next, Wang Jie, Shin waited for time to expire. In the last 30 seconds, Wang Jie passed the ball to Mutombo. Mutombo roared. Directly against Duncan, he slammed the ball hard into the hoop. Ha! The fans in the audience shouted excitedly. Wang Jie knew very well that this game must be won. Otherwise, there might be problems in the playoff games against the Spurs. For example, Popovich would use some kind of underhanded means in their home stadium. Even electrocution might happen. Anyway, Wang Jie used the goji berries in a thermos skill. He didn't even jump in this quarter. But Popovich was obviously dumbfounded. He actually had this idea too, but Wang Jie is a defensive sieve. If he gets injured, and a stronger player comes up, isn't it even worse? As for the other 4 substitutes, although they had bursts of energy, none of them were key players. Moreover, exchanging Shofa for the other team substitutes is a huge loss. In the end, Popovich had to call another timeout and replaced him with Ginobili, playing a fast break. Ginobili ran out of the play and used a screen to hit a 3-pointer. He deserves to be called the adversity demon blade. He directly chased the score difference between the 2 sides to 1 point. There were still 20 seconds left, and the whole audience held their breath. No one thought that the 2 teams could play like this. At Wang Jie's request, Scott replaced Shofa. At this time, Jeet and others, who had been resting for a long time, came on the court, each one full of energy. Jeet dribbled the ball past the half-court and was directly fouled by Fisher Jackson, who was guarding him, and walked to the free throw line. Jeet is now full of energy, making both free throws, and the score difference came to 3 points. However, turning around, Ginobili, under the Spurs formation, ran out of a little space and threw a 3-pointer at Wang Jie. The score between the 2 sides was tied, and the audience screamed instantly. Many fans covered their eyes, dared not to watch again. Then Jeet dragged his running position. After running Parker and others for a while, he suddenly made a pick and roll with Martin and gave the ball to Wang Jie, who was out of control. At this time, Rampage didn't have much rest, and his physical exhaustion almost made him unable to react in the end. In the last 3 seconds, Wang Jie didn't even jump. He grabbed the basketball. Suddenly, he took a step back and threw it casually towards the basket. Rampage jumped up quickly, almost covering Wang Jie's entire head. But Wang Jie's unreasonable 3-pointer was like it was installed with a positioning system. Swish! With the 3-pointer made, the red light came on, and the referee signaled that the goal was valid. Wang Jie killed the Spurs. Popovich was so angry that he smashed the tactical board. The stupid management, in order to save those $3 million, the Nets were almost dragged by Wang Jie to win the championship. At this time, it is in the New York Nets home court. There are many fans in big cities. The cheers were crazy. Wang Jie also laughed loudly, using all his skills for the first time. It has a kind of aggressive momentum, and Scott almost never changes his formation, compared with Popovich's team basketball. It really gives people a feeling of being crushed by IQ, but in the end, Wang Jie still relied on his unreasonable skills. Won the championship. At this time, Wang Jie and Duncan hugged. Wang Jie did not wait for Duncan to say that the future is yours. Duncan and others left slightly disappointed, leaving the stage of celebration to Wang Jie and others. Congratulations to 2002. The 2003 championship belongs to the Nets. Stern announced loudly. Everyone cheered. At this time, the suspense is who is the FMVP winner. According to the data, Wang Jie crushed a group of teammates in the team. Wang Jie averaged 32 points and 4 rebounds. 8 assists. Data, a fault-crushing Jefferson ranked second, 22 points. 6 rebounds and 2.5 assists. As for Kidd, who ranks third, mainly ball control plus Wang Jie replaced and made up for several quarters which made Kidd shoot less. Directly turned into an average of 18 points, 3 rebounds and 11 assists. This year, Kidd became the regular season assist king and the playoff assist king. Wang Jie has no confidence in being selected as FMVP because he is yellow-skinned. Moreover, he has been suppressing Nike, Adidas and other shoe merchants, and he has been dragging on without agreeing to sign this year a 6-year, $50 million shoe contract, which is likely to lead to the finals FMVP falling into the hands of others. However, in the end, Stern still shouted loudly, this year's finals FMVP belongs to Wang Jie. Everyone cheered. Wang Jie also immediately pulled Kidd and Jefferson. Lifted the FMVP trophy together. Jefferson, you must be an all-star player in the future. Wang Jie said with a smile, remember to thank you for your contribution to the team. I think the team can win the championship with half of your function. Wang Jie also knew that he was lucky to have snatched a championship from the Nets team without any superstars. This made Wang Jie secretly happy. Finals FMVP in this way. The championship skill rating will not drop, right? Congratulations. Congratulations on your outstanding performance in the regular season and playoffs. Congratulations to the host for improving the rating. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the golden passive skill. Vajra is not bad. Indestructible body automatically triggers when the host suffers a malicious foul. The body instantly hardens, comparable to diamond. Wang Jie was overjoyed upon hearing this. Diamonds are more than 10 times harder than steel. Anyone who dares to foul him maliciously is practically kicking a diamond. During the finals, Wang Jie was apprehensive about Bowen's defense, and often didn't even dare to jump. Even when he jumped, he had to be careful, which made playing basketball very inconvenient for him. Otherwise, he would have crushed the Spurs long ago and won. Chapter 18, National Spurs Rejected. Wang Jie didn't have time to look at the championship rewards. He went to accept the interview. Wang Jie, this is your 5th season winning the championship ring. And you also won this game's FMVP. Do you have any thoughts? A fair-haired, blue-eyed reporter hurriedly asked. Of course, I am very excited. I have already won my 5th championship ring, but this is my first FMVP. I feel very excited. At the same time, I want to say to those who say I am a championship moocher. That's right, I am not only a championship moocher, I am also an MVP moocher. If it weren't for my teammates, I wouldn't be able to get this MVP at all. Wang Jie said humorously. Ha 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 ha. Everyone burst into laughter. The finals MVP cannot be obtained by mooching. In reality, Wang Jie really did a bit of mooching. It would be difficult to mooch an MVP elsewhere. This season, without a 100% shooting percentage, do you still have any regrets? A reporter asked. No regrets. Besides, my shooting percentage is still not bad this season. I can be considered the best in the entire league. Wang Jie said with a smile. Your vote count was not high this season. Do you have any regrets about not participating in the All-Star game? I think next season, there may be a large number of votes. Wang Jie smiled and said, do you think you can win the championship next season? Of course. Since I joined the NBA, when have I not won a championship? Wang Jie nodded and smiled. You only signed a 1-season contract with the Nets. Will you stay with the Nets next season? If the Nets are willing to offer a max contract, I will consider staying. Wang Jie said with a smile. In fact, next year the Nets will suffer injuries in the playoffs, leading to a loss to the Pistons. But Wang Jie still has confidence in leading the Nets to win the championship. After all, he is leading TB. Remember to just play casually. Plus, rest more during the regular season. There will be no injuries in the playoffs. Moreover, next year, the Nets owner's capital chain will be broken. At that time, the whole team will be sold by him, signing Wang Jie this year. It means paying a lot of luxury tax, which means at least one starter must be sold next season. Or a few substitutes. It's hard to say Wang Jie will be signed. The interview ends. Wang Jie left the press conference, got into the driver's car, and returned to his home in Brooklyn, New York. Lying in bed, Wang Jie checked the final skill rewards. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 2002-2003 finals champion. Congratulations to the host for randomly obtaining a top skill. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Rule Series top skill, Rejuvenation. Detected host FMVP rating 89, according to the rating slightly reduced to. Flash of Inspiration, Rejuvenation, can only be used for 1 quarter. Let the player's strength restore to the peak season's 110% ability value. Flash of Inspiration, when the host is on the court, he can specify which veteran in 1 quarter, including home time, play the peak season strength. Wang Jie saw the skill Flash of Inspiration. He was overjoyed. In that case, he can completely ask the team. Get a superstar-level veteran to come over. It is very helpful to the team at critical moments. Especially now his team column has a veteran Mutombo. Let him play in the 4th quarter. Whether it is blocking shots or rebounding, they are all historical superstar-level existences. Thinking of this, Wang Jie immediately explained to Thompson, if the Nets want to keep him, be sure not to trade Mutombo, because he remembers that the Nets feel that Mutombo is happy and low energy this year. Prepare to directly buy out his contract. Vice President Wei Yuejin cleaned him out of the team, but as long as Wang Jie uses the Flash of Inspiration skill, Mutombo's single-game 1-quarter dream returns to the peak, which will definitely make the team even better. Wang Jie felt that this skill rating was not bad. The skill is reduced to meet his expectations, and he also began to value some teams without stars, especially the Pistons, known as the civilian team, next season. And Wang Jie, after the end of the next season, jumped out of the contract. Thompson immediately told Wang Jie that his phone was blown up. Among them, the Knicks are most interested in him. Wang Jie got the Knicks' promise of a 7-year $120 million big contract, and used Wang Jie as the team leader to build the team. Wang Jie was extremely tempted when he heard it. Immediately demanded a trade veto, draft picks and trade power, ready to take on the roles of both general manager and player. However, the New York Knicks were only willing to grant a trade veto, even if Wang Jie was willing to lower his annual salary and contract length. The team's general manager strongly refused, and told Wang Jie that the Knicks didn't lack money. Wang Jie understood. The Knicks originally had money, and the team's general manager had great power, so naturally it was impossible to be willing to give up their power. To a player, are there any other teams? Wang Jie asked. There are the Lakers, Rockets, Spurs, Clippers, Grizzlies. Thompson said one by one. Stop! Why don't you just say that all the teams invited me? Did the Detroit Pistons invite me? Wang Jie listened for a long time, immediately interrupted and said, Haha, Jack Wang, you are a hot commodity in the offseason. Of course, only the Timberwolves didn't. Garnett's annual salary of $28 million almost occupied all the space for the Timberwolves to strengthen. Thompson said with a smile, the Pistons' salary situation is okay. Offered you a 3-year, $36.8 million max contract. Thompson continued, talk to the Pistons. A 1-year, $10.8 million contract, and require the team to trade for a once-great veteran. No matter who it is, I'll join. Wang Jie made his request, although the Nets are good. But if you can win lying down, who wants to work hard to death? The next day, Wang Jie received a call from Thompson. Hey Jack Wang, I've already found out. The Pistons general manager said that coach Larry Brown said your defense is average. If you join the Pistons, you can only be a substitute, and at most give you an annual salary of $8 million. Thompson said angrily, substitute. Wang Jie thought about it. The Pistons substitutes seem to be good too, the defense is not bad, and Oker and Williams are strong offensively. If he joins forces with these substitutes, it will be at least stronger than joining forces with the Nets substitutes. Then is there anyone willing to trade a powerful veteran on a minimum salary to the team as a substitute? Wang Jie asked. Refused. And even if they accept, oh my god, Pistons head coach Larry Brown is notoriously difficult to deal with. Are you sure you want to go to his team? Thompson said. Okay. Wang Jie thought about it. The Pistons head coach is known as the rookie graveyard. Although Wang Jie is not a rookie, he will be unlucky if his defense is not good in the Pistons. After all, Larry Brown likes good defense, which is well known. By the way, the Nets rejected your request, saying that they could no longer afford Mutombo's salary. Thompson said helplessly. After Thompson finished speaking, he changed the topic and said, however, the Nets are willing to sign you again with a 1-year minimum salary contract. Chapter 19. Recruiting veterans. Wang Jie thought about it. Even without him, Wang Jie, the Nets and Pistons' second-round battle was still a 4-3 result. The Pistons' defense was stronger. The young and strong dragged the Nets to overtime, leading to the Nets' failure. If he were there. In addition, mixing in with the Nets was also very satisfactory, so he might as well stay with the Nets. Thompson, tell the Nets that the draft pick is out of the question. The Nets don't even have a draft opportunity this year. To trade a veto, there are teams that need a powerful, superstar-level minimum salary veteran. Anyone will do, Wang Jie said. Thompson wondered, Jack, why do you need a veteran this season? Because I like it. Wang Jie rolled his eyes. He couldn't say he had a skill that could make veterans shine again, right? Okay, the Nets were the champions last season. Presumably, it is still very attractive to veterans. Getting a minimum salary veteran is nothing at all. Thompson immediately agreed. Doesn't Moss have no money? Are they willing to let me join? Wang Jie asked. That's right, Moss said. An annual salary of $8 million, hoping you join, Thompson said. Miserly. Forget it, I might as well stay with the Nets. Wang Jie was speechless. He asked around during the offseason and found that those who offered him the maximum salary were some teams that couldn't even make the playoffs. Among them, the better ones were the Heat and Cavaliers were not bad. The Heat will select Wade this year. Even the rookie Wade already has the appearance of a superstar, plus Wang Jie is not without a chance to contend for the championship. The Cavaliers have James. Although James is still a bit immature in the new season, he is not bad either. Not to mention if Wang Jie joins. Didn't the Rockets invite me? Wang Jie thought about it. This season, Yao Ming has grown a lot. Having Yao Ming as a center already allows for many possibilities. Joining the Rockets might also offer a chance to win a championship. Yes, but they are only willing to offer a 3-year $25 million contract. A 1-year contract would only be $7 million a year. Thompson said helplessly. Wang Jie was speechless. Obviously the Rockets management had already contacted him. They clearly weren't as sad about Wang Jie. Forget it. Renew with the Lakers for 1 year, Wang Jie thought helplessly. The teams he wanted to go to either wouldn't offer a max contract or didn't have the right status. What could he do? Just renew with the pretty good Lakers for 1 year. So, Wang Jie had Thompson negotiate with the management. Finally, they successfully signed with the Lakers again for 1 year. Also possessing the right to veto trades. Wang Jie sighed, but thought that this year he had the flash of inspiration skill. Facing the Pistons, there was no need for any fear. As Wang Jie re-signed with the Lakers for another year, the entire NBA was shaken. The Lakers shouted the words, "To avoid a championship, the Lakers are calculating." In the offseason, Wang Jie was helpless. The Lakers directly gave him $1 million to offset the qualification for signing veteran players. Wang Jie has the final say on who to sign. $1 million, that's a little less. Wang Jie thought for a while and said to Lakers general manager Ron, "The team doesn't have any money." Ron said helplessly, "Clear out some contracts, add it to $1.5 million and invite Karl Malone." Wang Jie said, "Karl Malone is indeed good. I invited him without you telling me, but he is more optimistic about the Lakers' okay combination and rejected us." Lakers general manager Ron said helplessly, "All right." Wang Jie nodded, then asked about Johnson. "Johnson? Magic Johnson? Are you kidding me? He's so stupid." Ron said with wide eyes. "Ask him, would he be happy to come to the Lakers to get a championship?" Wang Jie said, "Okay." Ron went to inquire. He was quickly rejected because Magic Johnson did not lack championship rings. Helpless, Wang Jie could only continue looking for people, even mentioning Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jordan, but almost all of them refused. The Nets didn't have much appeal to them. Jordan felt old and physically unable to keep up. He's preparing to retire this year anyway and doesn't want to join the Nets. Wang Jie was speechless. He suddenly thought of Charles Barkley, the fat pig he bet with Kenny Smith last year. He's also a historical superstar, but he signed a contract with the TNT commentary platform. He doesn't know if he's willing to come back and play basketball. Thinking of this, Wang Jie immediately said, "Fat pig Barkley. I heard he kissed Kenny Smith's donkey but last year. How about inviting him to get a championship?" Fat pig Barkley? He's been retired for 4 years. He's just turned 40. He's so fat now. Can he still play basketball? Ron widened his eyes. "I don't care, I'll ask anyway," Wang Jie said. Okay. As soon as Ron thought of Barkley joining the team, it would bring huge prestige and fan attention to the team and be able to sell tickets better. It was also a good choice and he immediately agreed. At this time, Barkley was dumbfounded when he received Ron's call. He repeated the question 3 times, telling him, "Rockets? Are you sure you didn't invite the wrong person?" "It's me, Fat Pig Barkley. Not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?" "That's right, it's you. Presumably you also want a championship ring. How about fighting with our Nets and winning a championship ring?" Ron said, "To be honest, I'm fed up with my friends making fun of me for not having a championship. I need to think about this," Fat Pig Barkley said. Wang Jie received the news that Fat Pig Barkley was considering it. Following this idea, Wang Jie invited the Malone brothers, Stockton and Ewing, who were preparing to retire. However, Stockton finally said that he could consider barely playing for another year. Ewing said that he was too old and his knees were seriously injured, so he was not prepared to continue playing basketball. Wang Jie discovered that among the superstars he asked, only Barkley and Stockton still had some ideas about the championship, and the others refused. There are also some active veterans also wanted to win a championship, but because of his strength and the need for a not low annual salary, it's hard to choose with $1 million. During the offseason, Wang Jie still worked hard to improve his abilities. Among them, ball control, basketball IQ, and passing due to the acquired teachings. Wang Jie improved the most. Time passed by second. Wang Jie thought that if the offseason ended, if the two didn't agree, he would sign 1 or 2 good veteran players during the regular season. The offseason ended, and Stockton finally chose to retire and decided to rest well. If his mental state improves in the future, he will consider contributing, but there is no way. In the end, only Flying Pig Barkley was left. Barkley did say he wanted to. He has recently been in negotiations with TNT, because Barkley really earns money at TNT more than playing basketball. So Barkley doesn't want to leave TNT and hopes the company can let him rest for a year. Without salary, win a championship, and then go back to work. TNT finally reached an agreement with Barkley. Join the Nets in the playoffs and still do commentary during the regular season. Wang Jie was very happy to learn about this. Moreover, Barkley only wanted the veteran minimum salary, a $1 million a year contract, and doesn't play in the regular season. He only plays in the playoffs, which is equivalent to only 16 games, requiring only $160,000 to be paid. In other words, Wang Jie can still save the team $840,000. Chapter 20. The Big Worm Rodman. The preseason begins. Wang Jie received a call from Thompson. "Jack Wang," Thompson said. Wang Jie asked while shooting and holding his phone, "What new endorsement does Thompson have?" "No. Now many well-informed people in the NBA know that you want to lead people to win a championship. Dennis Rodman called, hoping to join. If you refuse, next week, he will join the Tijuana Dragons of the American Aber Development League." Rodman. The Big Worm Rodman. Wang Jie was a little surprised. He looked for a bunch of superstar veterans. He really forgot about him. This is a figure from the same era as Jordan, playing power forward. Defense and rebounding are fiercely strong. He's already 43 years old. And still playing basketball? Of course that's okay. But the Nets only gave me one spot. "No, you have to talk to General Manager Ron," Wang Jie said immediately. Dennis Rodman is a power forward, just right to fill in for Barkley in the regular season. Ron, Barkley agreed to join the team, but he only wants to join almost again. Now there's someone named Dennis Rodman who agrees to join us in the regular season. I think we can give him a chance. My agent said he only wants $360,000 a year, a super minimum salary, Wang Jie said. "Oh my God, Rodman was proven 4 years ago. He's too old and weak to play in the NBA at all. We already have Barkley occupying a roster spot. Plus Rodman, which means our 15-man roster, only has 13 spots left." Although Ron didn't refuse, his words implied unwillingness. Wang Jie was silent for a while. Rodman is cheap, but he takes up a roster spot. Cut the guy who was at the bottom of the rankings last season. Didn't play at all except for garbage time. The contract is more expensive than Rodman's. Just don't do it, Wang Jie thought and said. Ron hesitated for a moment. Obviously, Dennis Rodman has no future. The guy who ranked last season performed extremely poorly. But what if he unleashes his talent one day? Trust me, his talent isn't that great. At most, he's just a T-boo. Wang Jie has never heard of the name. Obviously, he didn't make it in the future. At most, he's just a T-boo. Okay, I'll go take care of it now. Ron was speechless. Rodman is also a T-boo. But for Wang Jie's sake, he finally agreed. Time passed slowly. The Nets' 2003 season began. Wang Jie went through off-season training. His strength was further improved. Wang Jie's height is 198 centimeters and his weight is 97,000 grams. Strength 81, speed 76, agility 75, jumping 72, stamina 83, basketball IQ 79, breakthrough 70, ball control 75, passing 78, dunking 68, layup 79, mid-range 78, 3-point 76, perimeter defense 75, interior defense 73, block 69, steal 65, rebound 69. Skill, blue skill eye defense, golden skill invincible. But level 5 Pete Jazz, Tim Duncan hook shot, game winner. Unpredictable, last gasp, everyone's practicing before the skills challenge. Old Jiang, who grabs rebounds, is gone. Mutombo is here. Rodman is here. Rodman's hair is multicolored. His voice is still very unique. His clothes are very fashionable. If you didn't know, you'd think he was some young celebrity. Unfortunately, Rodman didn't perform well in the preseason games. He can't run and jump high in an average of 10 minutes. His defense is still leaky. He's also not familiar with the tactics, so he can only be constantly blown out. Rockets. Are you sure this old guy still has gas in the tank? Do you know how Rodman got in? Both Kidd and the head coach are also slightly dissatisfied. You need to know. In the playoffs, there's also Charles Barkley. With 2 crouching dragons and fledgling phoenixes joining, they want to win a championship. Isn't this making it harder for themselves? The first game of the regular season is against their finals opponent, the San Antonio Spurs, the Western Conference champions from last season. So exciting right from the start. The Nets' home stadium is completely full of fans. Go Nets! Fans are constantly cheering. When the Spurs come out, there's a constant roar of boos. As the two teams start the game, although Robinson retired last season, the backup center is not as strong as Robinson at all. The Spurs' overall strength has declined somewhat, but Wang Jie did not use the unpredictable skill, but used Wiggins' Tim Duncan hook shot. Hook shot skill. The two sides fought 3 rounds. Wang Jie started and scored 9 points in the first quarter. Then he went off the court to rest. Kidd led the team. Wang Jie and Jefferson came on as substitutes. Unfortunately, Jefferson and Martin still can't limit Duncan. It's easy to defend against his shooting. Also, they can't get rebounds. However, without Robinson, the two can make more shots and grab 1 or 2 rebounds. Duncan. Out of reach. An interlude was that Wang Jie also asked his agent to invite Robinson. Unfortunately, Robinson refused. After all, the last time Robinson won a championship was in '99, when Wang Jie had just joined the NBA. He won the championship with Wang Jie, but unfortunately, he had just transmigrated and didn't even have time to say a word to him. He was stepped on. At the end of the second quarter, the Nets were 2 points behind the Spurs. Popovich smiled slightly, watching the court calmly. Scott was also calm. He believed that as long as Wang Jie played, he could reverse the score. End of the third quarter. The Nets are behind by 3 points, and the team's passing game always makes Jefferson and others receive the ball very comfortably, and the shooting percentage is naturally not low. End of the third quarter. 4 players on the team have already scored in double figures. Only Wang Jie and the starting center haven't. Start of the fourth quarter. Wang Jie comes on the court, and at the same time, the substitute, the worm Rodman, at Wang Jie's request, also comes on the court. Jack Wang, although I am very confident, won't it be losing too quickly if you let me play so soon? Rodman said, a little embarrassed. It doesn't matter. Wang Jie smiled and shook his head. Just experience it later. Go all out. Just treat yourself as the rebounding king worm Rodman you once were. No problem. After Rodman came on the court, he suddenly felt in his body a surge of terrifying power. His whole body was instantly filled with confidence. I seem to have returned to my peak. The rebounding king Rodman. Rodman widened his eyes. Rodman did not replace Martin, because Martin was playing well. He replaced Collins, the center who was being dominated by Duncan. With a bang, Rodman and Duncan collided in the air. Relying on his better rebounding instincts, Rodman directly grabbed the rebound in the air and flicked his wrist. Wang Jie received the ball and assisted Martin with a floater, scoring 2 points into the basket, instantly closing the point difference to 1 point. Rodman's strength instantly ignited the entire Nets audience, with cheers constantly erupting. After all, throughout the entire game, although they remembered to pass the ball very fluently and were able to run out of many open spots to score into the basket, with a higher shooting percentage than the Spurs, at the same time it was a bit too much to be suppressed by Duncan alone with the center in the paint. Chapter 21. All-Star Weekend begins. However, after Rodman came on the court for the Nets at the beginning of the fourth quarter, he immediately suppressed Duncan. Although Rodman has not scored yet, in just 5 minutes, he has gotten 3 rebounds, 1 block and 5 assists. It is worth mentioning that Rodman also took advantage of Duncan's carelessness and fiercely blocked Duncan. Moreover, Duncan originally had 3 quarters. Already scored 18, but Duncan hasn't scored a point in 5 minutes since the fourth quarter started. Rodman's defense is very successful. Duncan frowned in the paint. In fact, if Rodman defends seriously, Duncan can really hold his ground, but Rodman is definitely a star from the last century, with all kinds of small behind-the-back moves, making Duncan very uncomfortable. This gives him the feeling of facing Bowen on his own team, except Bowen can rebound. After Rodman came on the court, he directly helped the Nets suppress both offense and defense. Duncan, who was dominating the Nets, suddenly pulled off a 6-0 run, directly stealing 5 points back. How is this possible? A 43-year-old Rodman can still grab rebounds and so fast, so strong. God, what am I seeing? Spurs Popovich widened his eyes. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. Rodman's defense and rebounding have scored points. In the end, Rodman directly grabbed 5 rebounds, including offensive and defensive rebounds. 5 rebounds mean 10 points to keep the Nets alive. In addition, Rodman directly defended Duncan, the Spurs' #1 scorer, to 3 of 9 shots. He scored only 6 points in the last quarter, with a shooting percentage of only 33.3%, plus Wang Jie in the last quarter. He made all 4 3-pointers, scoring a full 21 points in the game. So, in the end, the Nets won 110-102, defeated the Spurs to get a winning start. After the game, Rodman only felt that all his strength was drained. The huge difference made him sit on the court very tired, panting heavily. Seeing this, Wang Jie cursed and the league came to inquire about the situation. After Rodman said there was no problem, I felt relieved. Then Wang Jie and Rodman for the team. The improvement is very strong, and the Nets have also won consecutive victories, although Rodman only played in the last game. But often when Rodman plays, it will cause the opponent to be directly defeated. After all, remember Wang Jie. Plus Rodman's big 3 are very strong. In addition, there are Martin and Jefferson in front. The strength of good stars. No team is a match. Even the Lakers, who will get the blood-sucking championship this year, is not an opponent. Even O'Neal, Kobe, Payton, Malone formed the Lakers' Big 4. Not an opponent. A 22-game winning streak in the regular season was interrupted in Denver. Because of the long journey and the thin air in the plateau, the strength is not adapted. This made all the teams understand the terror of Wang Jie's presence on the court, and Rodman's effort at 43 years old shocked a lot of people, especially Rodman's performances in his last quarter on the court. He was flying all over the place, and any rebound he targeted would end up in his hands. Averaging 2.2 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block, he had all-around stats. He went crazy, only his scoring ability was a little weak. If Rodman didn't have a good feel, he would almost always pass the ball again. But his passing was also good. You have to know, this is only 1 quarter. If he played a full 4 quarters, he could probably get 20 rebounds in a game. Of course, this is Rodman's performance at his peak. In reality, even at his peak, playing the entire game, his condition would be affected in the later 2 quarters. His rebounding wouldn't be as strong either, but just 1 quarter at his peak, Rodman is the most terrifying. Moreover, as he became more familiar with the team, Rodman's cooperation with the team was also very perfect. For a time, the Nets' general manager Rod was so excited that his mouth twisted into a smile. Coach Scott was even more excited, a minimum salary backup veteran. Averaging 12 minutes and being able to produce these stats is already incredible. As time passed, the All-Star weekend was about to begin. Meta Sandefjord Artist. Pistons Kevin Garnett Timberwolves Ben Wallace Pistons. Bruce Bowen Mats Kobe Bryant Lakers. Obtained the best lineup, Jason Kidd Nets Doug Christie. Kings Tim Duncan Spurs Andrei Kirilenko Jazz Dennis Rodman Nets. Obtained the second best lineup. Wang Jie's defense, even with godlike ability, was not top tier, not even making the second lineup. Starting Eastern Conference. Vince Carter Toronto Raptors Jermaine O'Neal Indiana Pacers Wallace Detroit Pistons. Iverson Philadelphia 76ers McGrady Orlando Magic Western Conference. Duncan San Antonio Spurs Garnett Minnesota Timberwolves Yao Ming Houston Rockets. Bryant Los Angeles Lakers Francis Houston Rockets backup Eastern Conference lineup. Center, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Cavaliers. Guard Michael Jordan Cavaliers. Guard Jason Kidd, Nets. Forward, Stephon Marbury, Suns. Center, Brad Miller Pacers. Guard Wang Jie, Nets. Forward, Antoine Walker, Celtics. Western Conference guard, Stephon Marbury, Suns. Forward, Sean Marion, Suns. Guard, Steve Nash, Mavericks. Forward, Dirk Nowitzki, Mavericks. Center, Shaquille O'Neal. None. Guard, Gary Payton Supersonics. Forward, Chris Webber, Kings. Eastern Conference head coach, Byron Scott. Western Conference head coach, Flip Saunders, Timberwolves. And Wang Jie averaged 27.2 points this season, only 0.2 points more than McGrady's 27 points. Temporarily the scoring champion this season, the player with the most points this season. Mainly because Sun God can get 30-plus points in a game or even occasionally 40-plus. Goi Ghost can also get at least around 18 points in a game, averaging out to 27.2. However, Wang Jie, who was selected for the All-Star game, was forcibly overshadowed by Carter, who averaged 22.5 points. And Kobe became the All-Star vote leader this year, with Yao Ming becoming second thanks to a large number of Chinese fans. Moreover, Carter's style of play during this period was extremely entertaining. His dunks, slams, reverse layups, game-winning assists, and other moves often became highlights of the game, attracted a lot of fan attention. Although Wang Jie is strong, he mostly shoots three-pointers, occasionally mid-range shots, and doesn't dunk. Compared to Carter's crazy dunks, he naturally doesn't have as much appeal. Wang Jie, who was voting in the same position as Carter, was forced down to the All-Star bench. But Wang Jie wasn't surprised. Even the basketball god Jordan sat on the bench. What does he have to be unhappy about? Before the game, Iverson and McGrady both said they would give their starting spots to Jordan. He refused, but when the All-Star game started, Eastern Conference All-Star Carter refused to play, threatening Jordan to start. Wang Jie was prepared for this game and had a great battle in the All-Star game. Chapter 22. The basketball god explodes. Wang Jie came off the bench in the second quarter. Hornets down 18 points suddenly became the player with the most points in the game. This game is mainly for show. So after 2 quarters, both sides were very happy, with almost no defense. Just constantly shooting, dunking, and showing off, especially Carter, who came off the bench with several dunks. Made the whole audience exclaim. Wang Jie was puzzled. His dunks weren't good. With a height of 1.98 meters, he was defended by the rim, so he didn't dare to show it off. The Western Conference All-Stars did not defend Jordan at all. Jordan is preparing to retire this season, and everyone is letting this former basketball god have his way. In the third quarter, Jordan's score surpassed Wang Jie. Kevin Garnett surpassed Wang Jie. Jordan's score surpassed Wang Jie. At the same time, Kevin Garnett's score was higher than Jordan's, Wang Jie and Scott suggested. He, along with Kidd, Jordan, Jermaine O'Neal and Wallace, were on in the fourth quarter. Scott was the Nets' head coach. Of course, they had to listen to Wang Jie, especially since in ordinary games, as long as they listened to Wang Jie's advice, they never suffered a loss. As for the fourth quarter case, it was the same as the previous 3 quarters. However, Kobe took it seriously, directly guarding Jordan and using his powerful defense to bully the older Jordan. At this moment, Wang Jie secretly activated the skill flash of inspiration. Jordan only felt his whole body lighten, and a powerful force surged into his body, his heroic confidence instantly detonating. You should know that this season, Jordan was participating in the All-Star game for the last time, and the script had already been written. To have him be elected as an All-Star retiree, the MVP trophy matching Jordan had been made, but it was jointly destroyed by Garnett and Kobe, and expressed that the new and old ladder is not about letting, but about surpassing. To this, Wang Jie said, okay, then you try to surpass the peak Jordan. So, the powerful Wang Jie, Kidd, and Jordan frantically attacked the Western All-Stars. Kobe, watching the fourth quarter, was dumbfounded by Jordan, who suddenly became a flying god. Back and forth 4 times, Jordan made a mid-range shot. Kobe's iron defense was that Jordan was defended to 4 shots and 1 hit, which made Kobe's face somewhat hang. And the fans on the court, watching Kobe, Jordan, and others who suddenly increased the intensity, cheered. At the same time, peak Jordan made a move, directly tearing apart the blockade of Kobe and Garnett. Constantly jump shooting and making shots, the shooting percentage was extremely high. Wang Jie also descended like a god, but did not steal the show, mainly to increase defense against Garnett, defending nearly 90% of Wang Jie. It can almost be seen as the existence of the second defensive team lineup, the current top 10 in defense. Garnett's scoring ability is too strong. He has already scored 22 points by now, even with Wang Jie's strong defense in the fourth quarter. He still scored 2 points under Wang Jie's defense. Garnett even used some small moves, but his hand felt like it hit a steel plate. He was in so much pain that he thought Wang Jie had secretly put on steel plates to play. Wang Jie also found that King Kong would not be triggered. Looking at Kevin Garnett, who was struggling to shake his hand away, he smiled inwardly. It seems that King Kong body protection is not bad. Now many small movements are very concealed. Is this guy made of steel plates? Kevin Garnett looked left and right, and did not see where Wang Jie hid the steel plate. Jordan went crazy in the last quarter. Directly got 20 points, 5 assists and 3 rebounds. Finally, the Eastern All-Stars 145. Exceeded the Western All-Stars 135. The 10-point difference made Kobe, who wanted to teach Jordan a lesson, and Garnett extremely depressed. Jordan, who scored 45 points in the All-Star game, undoubtedly became the All-Star MVP. He deservedly received the MVP trophy specially customized for him. An excited Jordan thanked Wang Jie and others in the league for their help in obtaining the MVP. After the game, Kobe and Garnett were somewhat disappointed, not expecting that their attempts to stir things up in the last quarter failed. They were also left with regrets after being beaten black and blue by Jordan. Kobe even believed he could surpass Jordan. However, he was puzzled by Jordan's explosion in the All-Star game. As for the 3-point contest, skills challenge and slam dunk contest, Wang Jie did not participate. Since it wasn't a formal competition and the skills wouldn't activate, he would easily make a fool of himself if he went. So he declined the invitation. However, after the All-Star game, Wang Jie returned to the regular season. Still continued his winning streak. Wang Jie, Kidd, and Rodman had extremely strong dominance. Until later, all the teams went crazy, wanting to enter the playoffs and such. They let go of a few games to avoid player injuries. Until the end of this season, under the leadership of the Nets and Wang Jie, the 3 of them directly achieved 74 wins, breaking the historical record again. Wang Jie even achieved strong statistics of 27.2 points, 3 rebounds, and 9 assists per game. However, the scoring champion was not Wang Jie, but Magic's Peak McGrady, with an average of 32.5 points, 6 rebounds and 6 assists. He directly surpassed Wang Jie. McGrady led. A group of scrubs in Orlando crazily padded their stats. Wang Jie simply couldn't compare to him. If every game was at God level, Wang Jie would still have a chance to snatch the scoring title. But with one game being godly and another dropping directly below 22 points, the Pacers, ranked second, had 60 wins, and the Timberwolves, ranked third, only had 57 wins. The gap with the Nets was huge. Instantly, the Nets became the biggest favorite to win the championship. Everyone knew. This terrifying record exceeded Jordan's initial 72 wins. The strength was very strong. The first round of the playoffs was against the Celtics. The Celtics called the truth. Paul Pierce was good, but his state this season was obviously far inferior to the previous and next seasons. Wang Jie played very easily in 4 games, a 4-0 sweep of the Celtics, and Charles Barkley finally returned. He only played for 5 minutes, experienced it for a while, and scored 5 points. 2 points and 1 rebound of comprehensive data. Charles Barkley is too fat and old. Even if Wang Jie has the last stand skill, Charles Barkley comes back after playing for 5 minutes and recovering from weakness. He immediately collapsed. Wang Jie didn't dare to use Charles Barkley for too long, lest he break out an injury. Paul Pierce is the only one on the Celtics who scored over 23 points. His shooting, assists, and rebounds are quite comprehensive. But he can't compete with Martin and others. The remaining highest score is 18 points. How can they be a match for the Nets? Jefferson, Martin, and Kidd all scored more than 16 points for the Nets. That is, Paul Pierce took advantage of Wang Jie's Ghostfield's 20% reduction in all attributes and stole 3 balls from him, adding 3 turnovers to him, but Wang Jie is not disappointed. After all, Paul Pierce's steals are notoriously good. Wang Jie defended in every possible way, but was still stolen. After all, with the decrease in speed, reaction, and agility, even knowing that he would be stolen in those 2 games, he simply couldn't react. This made Wang Jie understand that in the ghost field, he is easily stolen. He must be careful. Later, Wang Jie changed his strategy and directly asked Kidd to hand him the ball. Only shooting could avoid being stolen. The Nets advanced to the second round of the playoffs. And the team he will face has not yet been decided, so he can only wait a little longer. Fortunately, the Heat played the Lakers 4-3, fighting to a Game 7 which just finished. Wang Jie felt that his bones were rusty, only then did he face the Heat. Wang Jie was completely like a god in one game. In the third game, Rodman didn't even play. The game was over, exceeding the Heat by more than 20 points. Wang Jie scored 27 points in 3 quarters. Kidd, Martin, Jefferson, and others all scored in double figures. The Heat are also very strong. 3 starters scored in double figures, and the bench is also very strong, but the highest score was Wade. Only got 15 points. Wang Jie alone can match the Heat's 3 players. Although Wade already has the appearance of a star, his strength is very outstanding on the Heat, but star Wade is still very tender. Although the speed and breakthrough are very strong, the potential has not been fully developed, so outplaying Wang Jie's Nets, already stronger, directly crushing and defeating the Heat. Chapter 23. The 5-game sweeping Nets break the iron-blooded defense. Jie and Wang Jie appear directly in the final quarter of the game. Coming up, they scored 4 3-pointers, directly turning a 2-point lead into an 8-point lead. Immediately following, Rodman wreaked havoc in the paint. No one on the Heat could stop Rodman. In the end, with a large score of 127-117, they defeated the Heat. Next, Jie and Jie, along with Wang Jie, continued to lead the Nets to sweep the Heat. This made Kidd very excited, sweeping the second round so easily and winning consecutive championships. He didn't even dare to dream of it. Next up is the Pistons versus the Pacers. The 2 sides played to Game 6, with the Pistons defeating the Pacers 4-2 and meeting the Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals. Pistons head coach Larry Brown looked grave. In the offseason, Wang Jie wanted to join the Pistons, but he rejected him on the grounds that Wang Jie's defense was poor. Unexpectedly, facing Wang Jie's Nets in the Eastern Conference Finals, if the Pistons fail, his days as head coach will definitely be difficult. Larry Brown has watched Wang Jie's games. His shooting is very unreasonable, often throwing wildly from beyond the 3-point line, facing a crowd of defenders. Although the Wolfberry in a thermos skill resulted in some makes, in his eyes, it was largely luck. He even often shot from the 3-point line, almost treating the game like a joke. Even if he made the shots, Larry Brown's stubborn mindset still benched Wang Jie. In his view, defense is the most important key to winning a championship. Game 1. The Pistons led the team to Wang Jie's location, the Nets' home court. The home stadium was packed with fans. The cheers were deafening. After all, there were still many fans of the previous champion. Before the game started, no one believed that the Pistons could defeat the Nets. In the previous game, the Pistons and the Pacers battled. The Pistons' airtight defense was very tough and defeated the Pacers, but it made the fans sleepy. Everyone preferred the Nets' smooth ball movement and gorgeous passing. The accurate shooting percentage. Wang Jie stole Curry's incomparably pretentious mid-court 3-pointer. Rodman's frantic rebounding, along with his colorful hair and tattoos, was even more eye-catching, obviously more eye-catching than the 5 on the Pistons. After the opening, Wang Jie and others made shots through Kidd's passing, and then the Pistons' inside shot also went in, but then the Pistons played iron-blooded defense. Wang Jie's crazy breakthroughs, shots, and 3-pointers were omnipotent. A godly game is just that strong. After 3 quarters, Ben Wallace did all sorts of small tricks against Wang Jie. As a result, it was useless, and his hands were numb. Skill, invincible. It directly allowed Wang Jie to ignore Ben Wallace and others' dirty tricks, and even prevented their hands from going numb. In the fourth quarter, Rodman came on and directly widened the score. The Pistons, who originally had a rebounding advantage, Rodman snatched it so that they had no temper at all. It was another block, another steal, and another rebound completely ignited the fans in the stadium. His tough playing style made Rasheed Wallace and others helpless. His strong physical qualities even made the Pistons feel powerless. This wasn't a 43-year-old Rodman. This was Shaquille O'Neal coming. Finally, Game 1. Directly won the game by a large double-digit score. The second game. In the first 3 quarters, the Pistons' iron-blooded defense and the Nets' passing game were evenly matched. Wang Jie came on in the last quarter. It was 3 three-pointers, followed by 4 more three-pointers. Rodman once again restricted the Pistons' rebounds, and in the end, it was another hearty victory. This made Wang Jie somewhat unexpectedly discover that the Nets were not bad at all when facing the Pistons. Even stronger, the Pistons' iron-blooded defense faced Kidd's passing game. There was no way to stop it at all. He always tore apart the defense and scored successfully. As long as the shooting percentage was good, they could win. Could be said that the Nets were the counter to the Pistons. However, the third game, Kidd faced the Pistons' fierce scrambling and joint defense. Kidd's previous knee injury. The injury relapsed, especially against Rasheed Wallace, who seized a point. He directly suppressed Kidd's life until he could not take care of himself. Instantly, a large number of passing errors occurred. Without Kidd's strong connection, the others. There were only 8 turnovers in just 2 quarters. The most terrible thing was that Kidd could also shoot. After 2 quarters, he missed 8 consecutive shots. Starting in the third quarter, Wang Jie started shooting like crazy. As a result, the opposing Pistons defended against him with double teams, and his shooting percentage was only 3 out of 9. Barely managed to close the gap by 6 points. A small consolation is that the Pistons' shooting wasn't great either. But even so, by the end of the third quarter, the Pistons were already leading the Nets by 10 points. Such an incredible scene appeared in the Eastern Conference Finals. Wang Jie felt that if it continued like this, they were going to lose. You need to know that this year's Pistons can make the team with Kobe, O'Neal, Payton, and Malone doubt their lives with their defensive intensity. So, at the end of the third quarter, Wang Jie directly said to head coach Scott, "Head coach, remember Jed's knee injury is serious. Let me take 4 substitutes on. Jed Els, Rogers, Harris, Williams, let's go on together." That's right. This season, Wang Jie did not bind Rodman. "No, I can still hold on," Jed said to the league. "Trust me, we've already won 2 games. Whether we win this one or not, we can't hurt you." Wang Jie persuaded Jed. Okay. In the end, Jed was persuaded and agreed. Because the 5-peat Jazz and the last stand cannot be used at the same time, so if he used 5-peat Jazz, Rodman, who is already 43 years old, would only increase his strength by 20%. I'm afraid it won't help much, at most equivalent to a substitute, while Wang Jie in the last quarter used 5-peat Jazz, instantly making the 4 substitutes go crazy. Wang Jie and the 5 of them shot wildly, rebounded and defended, and the Pistons' double teams and traps were directly forced. The Nets' 5 were faster and stronger, directly breaking through the Pistons' defense, playing fast breaks, and the Pistons' double team was useless against Wang Jie. As long as Wang Jie was double-teamed by 2 people, he immediately threw the ball to the unguarded substitute, and the substitute directly shot and scored. The shooting percentage was extremely high. The Pistons felt that Wang Jie and the 5 of them were like 5 heavenly gods descending to earth. Beating the Pistons senseless, the Pistons were directly blown out on both offense and defense. With 4 minutes left in the final quarter, Wang Jie single-handedly led the team to reverse a 10-point deficit. The Pistons' Larry Brown looked incredibly grim. Larry Brown called 2 timeouts, but couldn't stop it. The Wolf King's hot touch in the last minute, Wang Jie used a buzzer beater. He directly hit a 3-pointer from half-court, extending the score to a 10-point advantage. The Pistons were filled with despair. After Wang Jie came on the court, it only took less than 12 minutes to go from a 10-point lead to a 10-point deficit, thanks to Rasheed Wallace making a jump shot. However, in the next possession, Harris got the ball and was fouled by the Pistons' Prince, but Harris still accurately made both free throws. The Pistons made 2 3-pointers and 1 2-pointer in the last minute, but they gave up 3 fouls for 6 free throws. Wang Jie's side didn't miss a single free throw, and the final score difference was still 8 points. The Nets won the series 3-0. The entire audience was silent at this moment. Many Pistons fans had already left the arena. "Let's celebrate ourselves. Jack Wang, Jack Wang, Jack Wang." Seeing Wang Jie reverse the Pistons' score by 8 points in 1 quarter, some Nets fans cheered excitedly. Chapter 24, Eastern Conference Finals Champions. This year, Wang Jie did not seize Jefferson's starting rights because Jefferson's training exchange strength increased greatly. Instead, Wang Jie seized Kid Middle's starting position. Wang Jie became the shooting guard, and Kid Middle came off the bench. On the contrary, Kid Middle exploded in this game. In one quarter, whether it was scoring in double figures or reaching for rebounds, of course, there was also Rodman helping to box out. The Nets didn't dare to be too arrogant in the Pistons' home court. They just cheered briefly and quickly withdrew. After all, the Detroit Pistons' home court, the Palace of Auburn Hills, has fans that are not easy to provoke. G4 Kid's injury has recovered somewhat. He must play in the second quarter. Wang Jie was helpless. Kid has a lot of say in the team as well. Even more than him. After all, Kid is the team's point guard. As a result, the fourth game was at the Detroit Pistons' home court. The Pistons already have home court advantage. Martin and Jefferson faced the Pistons' iron-blooded defense and played very hard. Of course, the Pistons' shooting was not very good either. The two sides engaged in a battle of missed shots, but because the Pistons kept grabbing rebounds in the last two quarters, the Nets lost by 6 points. Kid even went on in the third quarter and shot 0 for 3 with 3 turnovers. Wang Jie was speechless. It wasn't just him. His ability was directly reduced by 20% in this game. In the first and second quarters, he was also stolen and blocked, had 3 turnovers, and was directly taken off the court, not daring to go back on. He really has no face to blame others. In the fourth quarter, the score between the two sides was once again pulled to more than 10 points. Unfortunately, substitute Harris, in the last quarter, perhaps overexerted himself and suffered a leg cramp. He went straight home to rest, and Wang Jie finally entered the game, with Rodman replacing Martin. Wang Jie madly attempted 3-pointers. In just 5 minutes, Wang Jie scored 5 3-pointers. A total of 15 points, bringing the score to 80-74, a difference of only 6 points. Wang Jie felt helpless. He had already scored 18 points, and another shot would definitely miss. He could only quietly focus on defense, assigning his Ben Wallace to the side, a one-on-one matchup. The Pistons' boos made Wang Jie feel very uncomfortable for the next game. The Pistons strengthened their defense, but fortunately, Rodman used his skill last light due to Wang Jie. On the court, Rodman was outnumbered but still managed to grab 3 rebounds. The Nets' starting center, Chris. His performance was not as good as Rodman's, unable to beat the Pistons, but in the last minute. The score was still only 3 points apart. Wang Jie, after the Pistons relaxed their vigilance, suddenly launched a surprise 3-pointer, and with a swish, the score was tied. The entire Auburn Hills Palace went silent instantly. Countless Pistons fans closed their eyes, afraid to watch. The Pistons head coach immediately called a timeout, and turning around, Rasheed Wallace's contested shot missed. But Ben Wallace grabbed the rebound and scored 2 points. The Nets called a timeout and Martin and Kidd replaced Wang Jie and Rodman. Wang Jie had no way to shoot at this point, on the court relaxing. Besides containing Ben Wallace a bit, he had no effect. Martin's entry was indeed effective. He aggressively drew a foul, made both free throws, and surpassed the Pistons again by 3 points. However, turning around, Rasheed Wallace suddenly sank a 3-pointer from beyond the arc, instantly tying the score. Immediately afterward, Martin's 3-point shot missed, and turning around, Rasheed Wallace assisted Hamilton with a layup. In the last 5 seconds, Jefferson, defended by Prince of the Pistons, missed a 3-point buzzer beater and lost the game. After the game, Wang Jie did not blame Jefferson. 3-1, the Nets had a big lead. The next game is still at the Nets' home court.